Hello, and thank you for joining us for another episode of Visions in the Making, where we reveal the story behind the glory. I pray that you are having a great day and that you are ready to receive some awesome information. I get the pleasure of interviewing someone that I've pretty much seen go through this journey, and it's such a blessing to see where she is right now. I love her spirit, and I love what it is that God is doing through her. And it's just my hope that what we cover today will be a blessing to those that listen. I know that we are in a time when people are transitioning from their jobs. There are so many that have lost their jobs and are left trying to figure out, okay, what am I supposed to do? What what am I gifted to do? And you never had to really think about that before. And so now that we have a lot of time to think, I want to give you some tools, hopefully, that will help to navigate this season that you find yourself in. And so I hope that you will just get your pen, get some paper. I know that there are going to be some nuggets that will come out. And I'm not going to hold you up any longer. I want to introduce the guest of the day, Kirsten Carter. I knew her before Kirsten Carter, before she married her hubby. And so it's so cool to be able to say Kirsten Carter. But she is the founder of Purpose to Motivate LLC. She is an author, she's a coach, and motivational speaker. Purpose to Motivate focuses on helping millennials and Gen Z find and fulfill their passion and purpose through career or business. Kirsten has a passion for helping individuals reach their full potential and become successful doing what they love. Previously, Kirsten worked in property and casualty insurance for over 8 years. She learned how to navigate the corporate world as a young professional with several promotions and uses those techniques to help her young clients. In her spare time, Kirsten enjoys spending time with her husband, mentoring, working out, sports activities, and hanging out with friends. And so I believe, even though she focuses on Gen Z and millennials, I do believe that she is going to bless even the baby boomers and the Generation Xers. And so, welcome, Kirsten Carter. I love.
Thank you. Listen,
Hallelujah.
before the camera came on, I was just like this the entire time. So thank you for that.
So welcome.
Yes, I've known each other for quite some time now. I said, yes, we have known each other for quite some time now.
Yeah, used to be traveling buddies too, huh?
Yes, absolutely. Oh my gosh, we had some good times back in the day.
Yes, we did. And that's why I'm so proud to be able to talk to you today and to be able to have this book up here, The Purpose Journey,
Yes.
Millennial and Gen Z's Guide to Finding and Fulfilling Their Passion and Purpose Through Career or Business. And
Yes.
you know what? I do want to give people an idea of what you're talking about. So I wanted to read the back of the book for them. But it says, for the past 10 years, millennials have been criticized in the press, which is so true. Apparently, we are lazy, entitled, financially illiterate, disloyal with our jobs, etc. Even with the negative press, one stereotype I agree with is that we are driven by purpose. Amen. Millennials are notorious for having the desire to make a difference in this world. We strongly believe that there is more to life than just going to work and coming home. We want fulfillment in our jobs and businesses as well as in our personal life. The purpose journey is about my lengthy journey to finding and fulfilling my purpose in a business. Finding my purpose in life was imperative. However, I took many unnecessary paths to finding and fulfilling it. You don't have to waste time, like I did, by wandering down a winding road on your journey to pursuing your passion and purpose. You can have a well thought out roadmap uniquely designed for your path to fulfilling your destiny. The Purpose Journey is a guide to help you on your way to finding and fulfilling your passion and purpose in a career or business. Everyone has a purpose to fulfill in life. It's your time now. And I love how that ends. Oh my, I had to read that, right? Because all of that really speaks to, I believe, where we're at right now. But I really love the end where it says everyone has a purpose to fulfill. And I really want to talk about that because I think so many of us have been focused on just finding a job so that we can make it from day to day and have that steady income, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I think there are so many that hate what they do and they don't want to admit it, and they feel stuck. They really feel stuck. And so now today we find ourselves in a place where there are so many that have lost what they thought was going to be job security. And they're focused on, okay, so why am I here?
Right.
Why am I waking up every day? What am I supposed to do? And so I just want to let you sort of speak to that. What inspired you to write the book? I mean, the timing of it is perfect. So I know that's God, but what inspired you to really do it?
Yeah, so what inspired me to write the book was I wanted to have something that people can take with them, something that was tangible. I've done a few videos, I write posts on Facebook and Instagram and all of that, but I wanted to have something that you can hold, something that you can look back at, something that you can actually, because I have the little workbook in the back, so something that you can write on, that you can jot down notes. And so that was my main purpose for it. And I wanted to kind of give more of my story. I haven't told everything in the book, but I do give some detail and some insight on my story and my journey. So I wanted to have that on paper, because when I go speak places, I can speak somewhere and then leave, but they may forget some of the things that I said if they didn't take any notes. And so I wanted to be able to leave people with something so they can have and hold in their own hands and don't have to try to remember what it is that I said. So that's pretty much why I decided to write the book, or what inspired me to write it. Yeah.
Well, and I want to hear about your journey too, because I had an opportunity to read it, but I think it would be helpful to just sort of talk about how you started out, because it was a journey. It was a journey, and I enjoyed reading it. But yeah, if you could share a little bit of that, that would be awesome.
Yeah. So, in the book, I talk about when I was in high school, I really, really wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I loved doing my own hair mainly, but I loved playing with hair, playing in different wigs and weaves and doing different styles on my hair. So I was like, I really want to go to hair school and open a salon and day spa. So I had that in mind. I went to my parents about it, and they were like, that sounds great, but we want you to have a backup plan. So we want you to go to college, get your 4-year education, and then if for some reason that doesn't work out for you, then you have a degree to fall back on. My parents are baby boomers. They believe in having an education, having a good job, taking care of your family. They believe in you go to work, you go home, you find fulfillment outside of work. And so I was like, and not all baby boomers, but my parents specifically. And so I was like, okay. So reluctantly, I went to college. My parents paid for it, thankfully. And so that was more of an incentive for me to go. So I went to college. I didn't do so well my first semester because I didn't want to be there at all. And so I purposely did not do well in some of my classes with the thought of like, okay, if I get kicked out, then my parents will have to accept me back home, because I can't just quit. But I quickly changed my mind after that first semester because I met my husband, Ryan, And so I was like, I really need to get myself together, do what I got to do, and really figure out what it is that I want to do. So in the book, I talk about that I majored in business at first. I didn't like the classes. Then I switched to psychology because I took one psychology class and I was like, yeah, I want to be a therapist now. And then when I heard that you had to go to school for a lot longer, I was like, nah, let's do something else. And so, long story short, I chose communication studies because I took a few classes and I really loved the presentation aspect of the classes and writing papers, which may be weird to some people, but I did enjoy writing papers and presenting them. And so I did that. I graduated after college. I was like, okay, I still want to own my salon. So I looked at some community colleges. And when I got there, I was just like, I don't want to do that anymore. Like, I don't have a passion for doing anybody else's hair, but my own. So I had the idea to start a music academy. And where that came from, I moved to Raleigh, North Carolina from Greensboro, and I met a lot of musicians in the area. And so I was like, this makes perfect sense to start a music academy. I love helping people. I want to give back to the community. I read that music enhances learning in young children. And so I was like, this is a great idea. I love music. I love to dance. I just don't play an instrument. So I tried getting people to help me, the musicians that I did know, but a lot of them were young. And so they didn't want to volunteer. They wanted to get paid. I had no money. So I was looking for, other places to kind of hold or house the academy. I went to an organization. We almost worked out something. A tornado hit Raleigh. This was like back in, oh my gosh, I don't remember. You may remember. It was like 2011, maybe at this point. But a tornado hit Raleigh, damaged their location. All the while this was going on, I'm working on this business, this nonprofit I started. I was about 23, 24 years old. I was also recently employed at a Fortune 500 company, and my work was declining there. And I wasn't able to get my business off the ground. So I had to make a decision. And I was like, my dream has always been to become an entrepreneur, to work for myself. I really, really wanted to do that. However, it wasn't panning out for me. I had this job on the other end that was affording me the lifestyle that I wanted for so long, because prior to me getting the job at the Fortune 500 company, I worked at a call center. Prior to that, I was a receptionist, and I was not making any money at all. And I remember I would get with friends and I couldn't do a lot of things with them because I wasn't making any money. I was broke. And so once I started making money, I was like, you know what? I'm able to do this. I'm able to do that. And so, you know what? I choose the career. Forget the business. So I choose the career. I got myself together. I, became very well versed at my job. I did well, and eventually I was promoted. And, but after a few years, it just became way too stressful for me. And I realized that it was not worth it. The car that I had, the apartment that I was living in, or the condo at the time, it wasn't worth it to me anymore because I was so overwhelmed, so overworked. I've been opening up a lot more now about my issues with anxiety, and it was affecting me so much there. I didn't even really know what it was then. I hadn't been diagnosed at that time, but it was causing physical ailments. The stress I was having panic attacks, and it was just too much. So I decided to I was telling everybody I hated my job, first of all, but I decided, I was talking to my parents one day, and I talked with my mom, I talked to my dad, talked to my stepmom, just everybody. And they were giving me advice. And I remember my stepmom was like, Kirsten, you really need to just decide what you want.
Yeah.
What do you want to do? What do you want out of life? Where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What do you want? And you need to sit down, write it out, and decide from there. And so I did. And I remembered that I researched career counseling a few years prior, and I didn't go through with it because, once again, I decided I didn't want to go back to college. And so I was like, okay, the reason I like career counseling was because I've always enjoyed helping people with their careers or businesses. Anytime a friend, family member, or whoever came to me about anything they wanted to pursue career-wise or business-wise, I wanted to help them. Right. And I think the biggest thing for me was because I knew that I had a dream that I hadn't fulfilled yet, and I wasn't able to do that at the time. So I was all for helping someone else. If I can't do my own thing, I'm going to help you get to where you want to be. So whatever it is that I can do, to encourage you, motivate you, if I can go and do some research for you and find out what it is that you need to do to get there, then I'm all for that. Like, let me help you become who it is that you want to be. And so I remembered that. I also had talked to a friend of mine, and she was kind of, wanting to do the same thing. And so I just decided, you know what, if I can't get my counseling, if I don't want to go back and get my counseling license and all of that, what's the next thing that I can do that's along the same lines? And did more research and came across career coaching. And so, from there, I did what I had to do. I left my job. I had savings. I had 401k, which I don't advise to withdraw your 401k, but I did. I was desperate. And, Purpose to Motivate was birthed through that. And yeah, that's kind of where it kind of left me. Yeah.
Yeah. The fact that, first, let me applaud you for taking that step. Because I know there are so many people that fear will keep them from actually taking that step.
Yeah.
And I have been there where, just the whole fear of, okay, not knowing what will happen.
Right.
And I think that's what the major problem is, and that blocks people from really pursuing their purpose, or the whole entrepreneurship journey, not knowing what to expect.
Absolutely.
And so I applaud you for doing that. But then also, I applaud you for taking those steps. It's like, I'm going to try it, even if it doesn't work. And it was like, you didn't stop there. It's like, okay, well, yep, that didn't work. Let me try this. Well, that didn't work. And so it was like, step by step, you took those leaps of faith, I'll say. You took those leaps of faith to try something, which ultimately led you to where you are now. And I think it's a perfect fit. And I really hope that you sharing your story will encourage someone else, because one thing that you talked about in your book was perseverance.
Yeah.
And how sometimes we'll start off doing something, and then because it doesn't, I guess, work as quickly as we want it, then we quit. And you could quit prematurely. And there was a part of the book, I'm going to read this because I really think it's going to help someone. But when I read it, I was like, oh, how true is that? So there was a part that you shared. It says, lastly, I want to briefly touch on persevering through rejection. When I moved to Atlanta, I felt as if I couldn't find a job to save my life. I applied and interviewed at several places with no luck. I received rejection emails galore. I remember one evening, a rejection email came to my inbox, and all I could do was cry. Not again. Why didn't they want me? Did I say something wrong in the interview? Did I make a mistake moving to Atlanta? So many thoughts ran through my head. I felt defeated. I was on the brink of moving back home to NC. After receiving encouragement from Ryan, I decided to stick it out. Not long after, I received a job offer that got me back on my feet. If I had given up, moved back to North Carolina because of rejection, I may not have gotten married a year later. I may not have had the drive to continue my business or write this book. Who knows? I do know rejection made me stronger as a career woman, wife, and businesswoman. Rejection is going to occur while you're pursuing and living out your purpose. It is just part of the course. Therefore, keep striving toward your purpose no matter what. Wasn't it good? I know you wrote it, but
Like, that hit home like I didn't even write it. I'm like, man.
Don't you love that, right?
Yes.
But I'm telling you, when I read that, it just made me think how many of us have started out with something and we gave up too soon because of the pain that we felt when we received that rejection. Or let me go here, the pain that we experience when things didn't work out the way that you thought it would.
Oh God.
And so you never realize, and I love that you call this journey. It's a journey.
It is.
So each step leads you ultimately to your divine path, I say, or where you're supposed to be, your destination. And so I love that you shared, what if I would have given up? So many other things could have been affected. You may not have been Kirsten Carter, and that would have been a tragedy.
That's the truth, because honestly, I mean, that's a long distance relationship, North Carolina, Georgia. It's a 6-hour drive. It's a short flight if you want to fly, but I mean, who knows what would have happened, because I think me moving there helped grow our relationship. I've known him for 15 years, but even still, we needed to be around each other more because we spent so long apart from each other. So if I would have moved back to North Carolina, maybe I would have got caught up in another job or something else. You know what I mean? Like, who really, really knows what would have happened? I may have gone back to the job that I was working at previously in North Carolina because I needed work and got caught up in that. And this book, maybe I would have written at some point, but definitely not now. And I remember that like it was yesterday, when I remember I was at his apartment and I was in his room, and I remember looking at that email, and I was just like, come on, like, are you serious? Like, because moving to Atlanta was a faith move, 100%. I prayed about it. I fasted about it before I moved. And I really felt like God was leading me to Atlanta for that season, or for this season that I'm in now. And so when I wasn't able to get on my feet, because I had the savings, right? However, I knew that I was going to have to work. I needed a job in order to sustain myself until I could get my business off the ground, right? And so I didn't want to have to go back into insurance, but I just needed something. So I was applying any and everywhere. But nobody was getting back with me, or if they did, it was all rejection. So I remember getting that email, and it was just so disheartening. And I really didn't understand, because I'm like, Lord, I thought that you made a way for me to come here. And now it feels like I was wrong, and it feels like this isn't getting me anywhere, and I'm going to have to leave. Like, sorry, Lord, this is not working out. It doesn't seem like it's working out at this point. But yeah, I thank God that, I had my boyfriend at the time, to encourage me and, to speak into me and just say, you know what, you're here for a reason, and just stick it out and just see what happened. Because the funny thing about God is he works on his time and not our own.
Yes.
And in that moment, I wasn't at my last, at that moment, right? Like, I still had savings. I was just frustrated because I thought that as soon as I got to Atlanta that I would get blessed with a job. But, God has a way of, I don't know, just testing our faith, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But God has a way of proving that he is the one who
Yes.
supplies our needs and provides for us, and showing us that he is the one that will, make sure that we are good. And he absolutely comes right on time.
Yes.
And he has shown me that time and time again. And that was that moment for me. Me being in Atlanta, moving to Atlanta, has tested my faith over and over and over again. And that was just that moment for me, God showing me that I am, the one who is going to provide for you. I will make sure you're taking care of that. I need you to really start believing that and stop trying to do everything on your own and in your own timing. If you are going to be here fulfilling the purpose that I put in you, you're going to have to lean on me and not your own understanding.
Yes.
Right. And so that was just one of those moments. And so people need to understand that if you do want to go in the direction of actually living out the purpose that God has put in you, then you need to be able to persevere. You need to be able to trust God and lean on his understanding and not your own, and in his timing and not your own, because it's a faith journey, not just not just fulfilling your purpose, but it's all about God at the end of the day. And that's why I quote scriptures in there. It's a practical guide, because I'm all about being practical and spiritual, but God is in there 100%. And so yeah, I mean, it definitely persevering through those tough times. Nothing is going to be easy. Nothing's always going to be flowers and rainbows, even if you are pursuing your purpose. But you just have to remember that, there are going to be difficult times, but just keep going and keep pressing through the rejection, the fear and whatever it is that comes up in your life.
Amen. Oh, I love that. And like you said, God is in it all. He's in the rejection. He's in, the mistakes, that we make. He can redeem it all. And I think your life is a testimony. Where you're at right now is a testimony to that. If you take that step, no, it may not always work out perfectly. And I think that's one thing that we get wrong about this walk, that if God tells you to do something, that it's going to just automatically be just great and all come together. No, it does not do that. It doesn't happen like that. And I think that's what keeps a lot of us from really seeing the fullness of all that, God wants to do in our lives. The fact that we think, oh, it didn't work out in the way and the time or in the way that I thought it would, so it must not be God. I guess I heard him wrong. Oh, let me go back and no, you stay there. You stay there and allow him to guide you so that you can actually reach your destination and have a testimony to share with others, because really it's not about you.
Absolutely. Exactly.
It's not about you. And the fact that, he could take all of that and use it to build others up is amazing.
Yes.
It's amazing. And so, one thing that really stuck out as you were sharing your story was the fact that you and your husband, I think, was a part that whole coming together was a part of this purpose journey.
Yeah.
And he served a purpose, in just the little conversations that you guys had. But one thing I also noticed is, and others may not know this because if they're not following you, but the two of you are doing ministry together. And I say ministry, they're not, in the church ministry. And
Yeah.
I need to get outside of that. But both of them have a desire to exercise. They have a desire to help others. And I see you guys doing videos together. And I love the way that God brought you guys together to do that.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes oh, I'm about to go in, Lord.
Go
So
on. Going in.
I'm about to go in. But it goes back to kingdom marriages and kingdom couples.
Yeah.
And I see that with you guys, from you telling your story about how God led you there, to him encouraging you, to now you guys, coming together to do this. And he's a supporter of yours.
Yeah.
And so, and you also a supporter of his. I see you putting his videos out there as well.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that, because
Yeah.
I think people, I don't know why I'm going here, but help me, Holy Spirit. But I really think that we do want to encourage the singles, because you may be thinking, okay, purpose when it comes to your business, but it goes so much further into, other areas, and marriage is one of them. So let's talk about that.
Okay. Yeah. From day one, like I said in my book, I talk about how I was kind of doing my own thing and wanted to go back home. And then when he and I got together, I changed my mind. And the thing about my husband, he is such a great guy. And even back in college, he really made sure that I was doing what I was supposed to do. Even when I wanted to wild out and do all this other stuff, like, he really held me accountable. And, I wanted to do better and be better because he was that example for me. He wasn't out there acting all crazy. He's not a quote unquote bad boy, and all of that a lot of us young girls especially are into, depending on, your upbringing. I was kind of rebellious. And so I was into kind of the bad guys and stuff. But he's not. And I love that. So even from day one, he's always been like that for me. And so going back to us, kind of the purpose of us even being together, and my purpose being able to be birthed through our connection, he is definitely my number one supporter. I mean, even when times after starting the business and trying to work on my book and work on other stuff associated with my business, when I didn't want to anymore, there've been times that even still, I'm like, I don't know about this, maybe I should do something else. Still that fear comes up, that confidence can be down sometimes. And he would still be like, no, I thought you said you wanted to do this. I thought you said that you had a passion for that. I thought you said that purpose to motivate was what you want to do. And, I'm like, yeah, you're right. So even when I'm not even feeling motivated to do my own thing, he's there to motivate me and push me. And, people, singles, you have to look deeper than just the physical. You have to look deeper than what kind of job they have, all of that stuff, like that, the surface level stuff, because when it comes time when you do want to pursue your dream, pursue your purpose, pursue whatever that you want to do in your life, whatever God has for you, you need to have someone who understands that, who aligns with whatever your purpose is, who encourages you, who motivates you, and who pushes you to get to where you need to be. I say all the time, I consult with him with pretty much everything pertaining to my business. Posts that I make, I let him see it first because I'm like, does this even sound right? Do you like this? Or how do I look in this? Would you do this if you were reading it? Or what would you think if I kind of call him my manager, so to speak. But I mean, I just thank God for having him in my life. Like I don't know if I would have gotten this far if he wasn't here with me. And so it's truly a blessing. Yeah.
I had to go there. I had
Yeah.
to go there. And I think there's someone that
Important.
needs to understand that, because especially as an entrepreneur, if you're thinking about pursuing entrepreneurship, it is so important that you have the right person on your team. And
Yeah.
typically, your spouse is the one that influences you the most. And so you want someone that's going to be able to push you. You need someone that's going to be able to speak into you and be able to see the vision that you have for your business,
Yep.
so that when times get hard, they're the ones that can help you to navigate through those hard times and say, no, this is the vision. This is where we're going to stay. And so, I really feel like, and I feel like I needed to bring that up now, because God has really been revealing that this is a season that he's bringing together people that are, let me say it this way, supernatural marriages
Okay.
and
Yeah.
purpose couples. It's
Yeah.
not about just getting together to fulfill your flesh.
Yep.
And like you said, I'm so glad you brought that out, was, it's not about the looks. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, even though now
I ain't saying yes, you need to be attractive.
okay, let me be clear. Let me be clear now. I don't want you to be scared to death when you roll over in the morning. But
Exactly. You must be, and yes,
but
needs to be there.
yes, so some attraction needs to be there. But that person may not be your typical type.
Exactly.
you know but I love that you shared that he's what you needed. He
Oh,
is the one that is pushing you when you can't push yourself. And
yeah.
so I really feel like, and because I do also speak to singles, I just want to make sure that we are aware of that and keep that sort of, in the back of our minds when we are waiting for this man or woman of God to come
Yeah.
our way, that we don't turn away who God has for us. And I'm grateful. I'm so
Absolutely.
grateful for, those that God is putting together or have put together to be that example of
Hmm.
what it should look like and
Yep.
what we should be pursuing. Because at the end of the day, it would be bad if you're trying to pursue something and you have someone else that's either not supportive
Hmm.
or trying to push you in another direction that God has not called you in. So you better
Exactly.
make sure that is God.
Exactly. Exactly. And another thing is you want to make sure that it's someone that you truly love and someone who truly loves you, because let's face it, things can happen when after you get married. So let's say you got with somebody who's making six figures and this, that, and the third. He can lose his job as soon as you get married, the next day. Who knows? Because our first year of marriage, we had a lot going on in our first year of marriage. Like, I left my job, the job that I got down here. I left my job again due to extreme stress. I ended up leaving and then launching my business, but I ended up leaving it. And I was in a really bad place at that point. When it should have been all roses and rainbows and everything, because we had just gotten married, we were newlyweds and all of that. But it was really, really hard. I wasn't really at stop, cooking like I should. I wasn't really emotionally available like that, because I was really having a tough time. I was dealing with depression, anxiety, and all of that. And he stuck with me through all of that. He ended up switching jobs that same year of our first marriage, and so our income changed, and so it was a lot of different things. But because we love each other, we support each other, we're a team, and we said through sickness and health, for richer or poor, all of those different vows that you say that you are supposed to actually mean. And when you really love someone, when you really have that deep connection with someone, then that is what you do. And so I just want to, if you haven't met that person yet, if you feel like, well, time's a ticking and all that kind of stuff, I understand that. However, you just don't go into just any relationship just because you want to get married. There's just so much involved in being married, and it's a beautiful thing. It's a wonderful thing, but you want to make sure it is with the right person, because when tough times do arise, you will need someone who truly, truly loves you, that agape love, that just, I don't even know how to really explain it, but you know what I mean? Like, it just, you don't take it lightly at all. And just, again, someone who motivates you and encourages you to, go after the things that fulfill you and all of that. So, yeah.
Girl.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And I just, I told Kirsten before we came on, I said, I don't know where God is going to take us
Yeah.
as we begin to speak. But let me tell you, this needed to be said today.
Yeah.
And I believe that it's going to be a blessing. And I appreciate your vulnerability and your transparency, because many of us, I think that's the reason why so many marriages, and I'm going to say the journey to finding your purpose, fails, because people aren't transparent with the struggle that
Right.
they had to endure to get to where they are.
Yep.
And so, we have this fantasy of how it's supposed to be. I know before I started with the whole entrepreneurship journey, I would look at Facebook and it looked like entrepreneurs were having like a great time. Like everything was just fun. They could just do whatever. It was the dream life. No, it's not. And not in the beginning for some. And so I think the same thing with marriage. We see the pictures and the profiles and everybody looks so lovey-dovey, and you do think that first year is just going to be, we going to stay in the bedroom, we going to have a great time in Jesus name. But that's not always the case. Life happens.
Yes.
And obstacles will always be a part of this journey. You cannot be on this journey and not be faced with that. And so it's good to prepare ourselves for it. It's good to know how to navigate those things and to hear stories from others. I say testimonies because I'm so churchy, but we say testimonies. We get to hear those things so that when that happens to us, we're not looking like, oh, something must be wrong, I need to run in the other direction, or, oh, I guess I need to get a divorce now. No, this is part of the process. And if you persevere, then you will be able to get on the other side and also share your testimony. Does it mean that your life is going to be perfect? No.
Nope.
Does it mean that you're not going to encounter things along the way after the fact? No. But it does mean that I overcame before and I will overcome again. And that's the whole purpose behind sharing.
Like, seriously, yes.
And so, I pray. I know we could go on and on, but I do believe that we touched on some things that we really needed to touch on today, and I pray that everyone is blessed. And one thing I do want to talk about, because I know, because of everything that is going on right now with the riots and the economy, COVID, that anxiety is
Mm-hmm.
something that more people are having to deal with than we know.
Yes.
And because it's not something that people are openly discussing, there's not much about how to really deal with it.
Yeah.
And so, if we could just talk about that, if you could share maybe some of the tips that you may have that have helped you to
Mm-hmm.
overcome that, I think that would be so helpful.
Sure. Yeah. For a while I was ashamed and I didn't want to share it with anybody. Um, but then I realized, like you said, so many, at first I didn't realize so many people were dealing with anxiety. And so I feel like for someone who has struggled with it for years, but I've been able to manage it a little more better now. One of the things that first things first, that helped me was my therapist, getting a therapist. I've been seeing one for 2 years now. She is amazing. I love her. She is faith-based, so she is a Christian. So we definitely incorporate Christianity, God in it. So I love that about her. Um, and the tips that she has given me on how to manage it is to change the negative thoughts into a positive. So when a negative thought enters your mind, change that immediately to something positive. All right. Try not to focus on what's to come. Focus on the now. She would tell me all the time, take things one step at a time, even if it's 1 minute at a time. Whatever you're dealing, whatever is really affecting you. If it's something you're thinking about that you have to do, you know, in 2 hours, just focus on what you're doing right now. Stop worrying about things that you cannot change. And when you think about it in a way that, you know what, I really cannot physically do anything to change what may or may not even happen, start thinking about that. Try to really manage and retrain your thoughts. And it's a daily process, right? Like it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to be one day you were struggling with anxiety and tomorrow you're going to be completely cured from it. But just taking tools like that, things that are beyond your control, they're beyond your control, and just think of it that way. Just kind of just change your mindset. Try to work on that every single day. Get off social media, at some points of the day. Do not be on there for hours at a time, because there have been studies and research that shows that social media increases anxiety.
Wow.
And so, take the time to, instead of being on social media for 5 hours or 10 hours a day, go read a book, do something fun that you enjoy doing, go work out, draw. Coloring has been shown to really help with anxiety. So color, draw, paint, listen to music, whatever it is that can kind of get your mind off something. Pray, read the Bible. That really helps me as well, reading the Bible. And it's sad to say, but if I'm being completely honest, going through anxiety and depression and everything, for some reason, I didn't even think to pray about it. And I know that sounds crazy because I am a Christian, but I don't know why I didn't think, well, duh, God can help me through this.
Yeah.
But it really took my mother-in-law, even though we talk about that stuff with my therapist, I kind of was leaning, on my therapist and everything. But there's so many scriptures in the Bible, and I don't have them right offhand. But there's scriptures in the Bible that help with that. Do not be anxious for, be anxious for nothing, leaning on God and all of that. Like, there's stuff in the Bible that speaks to being anxious. And so, yeah, incorporating God, that's probably number one, getting your therapist, retraining your thoughts, trying not to focus on things that you cannot change. All of that. It's a lot, but yeah, those are just a few tips, and just focusing on things that you actually love to do. My therapist would tell me all the time, work on your business, do stuff with your business, that stuff that you love, you want to do that. So instead of trying to do all this other stuff that you were thinking about doing, do stuff that you actually like. So yeah, there's a lot involved.
Good tips. Those are all
Yeah.
great tips. And, I wanted to discuss that because of the fact that I think with everything going on, I think it is hiding, I shouldn't say, people's anxiety is at another level, let's say it that way. And so, I hope that just, even those tips are great tips to just get started with tackling that issue. The whole thing about social media, I wholeheartedly agree. I am having to, back away from that a little bit myself, and it's been a struggle, especially with me being in the house. But there's a timer on my phone, and I know it's on everybody's phone, that it will give you an alert to show you how long you've been on social media for the day.
Yeah.
And at first, when I did that, I was like, I'm not getting off. I, click the little cancel.
Yeah.
But stuff like that will help you to pay attention to how much you're on social media. Because right now, we have so many people that are posting videos of violence. We have people that are, going at each other's throat on social media.
Oh my God.
And a lot of that stuff, like you said, we can't control it. There's
Mhm.
nothing that we can do to change that right now. And then, I know I'm going to probably hear some people say, well, Crystal, yes, you can march and you can,
Right.
do some other
Right.
stuff. But, for those of us that choose not to march, because my will not allow me to, I have a voice. And my way of dealing with everything that is going on right now is I can bring on guests that can share information that will help others that may be dealing with something that they're dealing with right now.
Yeah.
I can talk about issues that can sometimes take a back seat to everything that we're dealing with right now. So I choose to use my mouth, and
Yep.
I choose to use the word and to encourage others. So although I may not be quoting scriptures right now, God is all up in this conversation, if you haven't figured that out yet. And so it's just, amazing what you can do to take your attention from what's going on right now and try to bring some good out of it. And by doing that, I deal with anxiety, I deal with depression, and have been at the hospital having panic attacks and didn't know what was going on several times. But after a while, I learned how to, navigate that by doing things that I like. I like to talk. So therefore, we have a podcast.
Yes.
There's so many people, that have awesome testimonies and are doing great things during this whole pandemic. And, you writing this book, this coming out even now, is one of those things. You being able to get up here and share this information about anxiety and, dealing with navigating your purpose, that's not by accident. and
Mm.
it is very
Yeah.
needed right now. And so I hope that, as you are going through this pandemic, and as you are going through the many, many changes that life is bringing right now, that you will see this time as an opportunity to take that journey to
Yeah.
discover your purpose, and that you will also see this as an opportunity to discover what it is that you love, stir up that gift that is within, and begin to just tap into what it is that God has for you to give to others, because once again, it's not about you, but it
Amen.
is about you stirring up that gift and getting that out to people that really need what you have within. And so I am just going to challenge, the listeners right now, to really think about, what am I purposed to do in this season, and who needs what I have, and
Amen.
how can I get it out there so that I can make a difference in the world. And so let that be your challenge today. We're going to end with that. This has been awesome. And
Yes.
I really
Thank
thank
you.
you for coming on here, Kirsten, and sharing. And, I sort of feel like we might need to do a part two later
I know.
down the road, because there's so much
Yeah.
that we didn't tap into. But for right now, I think this is going to be great to get people started. And we'll definitely see you next time on Vision
Absolutely.
Making, where we reveal stories behind the glory. And I hope you have a great day. Bye
You
bye.
too.